At KSMO Radio, we're sitting down with Jen Tracy, our 120th state representative, Democratic representative. And hey,
Hi.
good to have you here. You're dressed
Thanks.
for the weather.
I am. It's miserable
It
outside.
is hot. It is hot. But you've got a lot of stuff to do today, don't you?
Yes, actually, after here, I'm going to head over and see Mr. Dodd, and we're going to do a newspaper kind of an interview, a write-up. I think he's planning on doing that for all candidates. And then after that, we're headed to Sedalia. We are going to volunteer at their rural caucus booth that they have there. We did it last year. And so we'll be there tomorrow, so Friday and Saturday morning, 9 a.m. to about 1, and we'll hang out in that booth and just talk to fairgoers. Absolutely.
absolutely
And then, of course, get some of the good food.
They actually have great food.
They do. That's right.
If nothing else, I wish people could get out there and sample some of the great food. They have incredible food at our Missouri State Fair, and I hope that everybody gets a chance to sometime in their lifetime get out there and enjoy
You bet.
that.
You bet.
You know, one of the nice things when you get a chance to visit, obviously when you're out there at State Fair, you're going to see a whole different set of people than you have in the last couple of months, obviously. But everybody has a lot of the same issues. You know, first off, voter turnout. Everybody likes voter turnout. It was fairly decent on the Republican side, but not too much on Libertarian or nonpartisan or the Democratic side here in Dane County. And that's kind of upsetting, isn't it?
It is. So, back and let's go back to 2022 for a second.
Sure.
40% of the seats in Missouri were uncontested. This year for 2024, we have increased that. We're now up to it's only 18%. And candidates are starting to get off of the fence and put themselves out there. So if only registered voters would kind of do the same. I know here in Dent County, if you look at the county clerk's numbers or Secretary of State, there's just over 10,000 registered voters in Dent County. Here in this last election, the primary that happened last week, 34% turned out. That was it. And I know a lot of people are saying that's a great number. That's a great number for turnout. But I mean,
no, it's not.
I disagree. That's right. So we're letting 34% of people in the county choose the future for 100% of the people. And I mean, if you want to break it down to small numbers, like 3 people are choosing the fate of 10 people. And it was even more dismal in Crawford County. So in Crawford County, we only had 27% voter turnout, where we have almost 17,000 registered voters. So it's a little disheartening.
And this is a primary. We're not talking about the general election, which, okay, we know the general election numbers will be up, but I'll almost guarantee it going to be about 50%.
That's right.
Maybe 55 at best, and it should be 90%.
It should. I mean, this is your ability to choose, what's going on with your government, your local government. And let's even talk about even more dismal numbers, right? The municipal elections, oh my word, those are terrible, but those are absolutely very local. And like our primary elections that we just had, that's a lot of our county positions. And so if you are not happy with how that played out for you and you didn't vote, come on. I mean, you have to get out there. You have to vote. This is your right, and make a plan. I know, so the general election's coming up on November 5th, and we also have that early voting that happens 2 weeks prior, that starts 2 weeks prior, so October 22nd. So get it on your calendars. Make an actual plan. Talk to your neighbors, talk to your friends, see if they need a ride to the polls. Just help each other out so that you are prepared for this.
And they made it easier by extending the no excuse voting, as you're mentioning, to where you don't have to have an excuse and go in and fill out some form and sign it. It's just no excuse. You can go in and vote at any time at your leisure. You know, one of the things, and when we start talking about like the Denton County ticket, we had 4 parties on: the Republican, Democrat, Libertarian, and then the nonpartisan, which was just the amendments. If you wanted to vote that way, you could. But people say, well, I don't like any of those 4 choices. Well, then it's the 5th choice you're making. Well, I'm not making a choice. That's a choice.
That's right.
So if you elect not to vote, you're still making a decision, because no vote helps nobody.
That's exactly right.
And all it does is tell me that, okay, you're very happy with everything that's going on and you want nothing to change, or or you just don't care.
Well, and so that kind of, great segue there, Stan, into my apathetic voters. We did not plan this, but it's a constant battle, and I'm sure it's for any campaign of how do we reach those apathetic voters? How do we reach those people who say, well, I don't vote because my vote doesn't matter, and they're just not inspired enough to be active in politics. But then they're personally affected by something, sure. And then it's too late, right? So we can't have them wait. You think of women. There are a lot of women right now who are taking notice as they have concerns with being able to make their own medical decisions. Some of them are dying from pregnancy complications. I have a friend of mine who actually had to, go across state lines because she was bleeding out in her bathroom and she could not get the care here in Missouri that she needed. That's concerning. They're worried about IVF and birth control and those things being taken away. And, I just think that they should be trusted to be able to plan their families and not have the government all up in their business doing that. And so they're taking notice. And then I have other friends who are taking notice because there are a lot of families out there who've been impacted by opioid addiction and overdoses that have resulted in death. And they might have been completely against access to Narcan. Some people, want to give a audible gasp when you say, do you have Narcan or do you carry that on you? And they think, oh, I would never have that on me, because it just has a negative connotation for some reason. But
it can save somebody's life.
It can. And now I see so many people who were against that before who are absolutely willing to carry it on them just because in case they encounter someone else's loved one who's overdosed and maybe they couldn't save their loved one back at that time, but maybe they could save somebody else's. So I think now is the time to get involved and to care because when you're personally affected, it's too late.
Well said. And it is. It's well said. People don't take it to heart. And it's gonna affect somebody or you love sooner or later.
That's right.
Having a conversation with a gentleman right before you came in, and he's had heart failure and things of that nature. But he was asking me about this accident that happened up here and how it affected so many different people. A young lady and her daughter get killed, and then another young lady from down actually Southwest Missouri killed. For no reason except a truck driver wasn't paying attention.
Right.
And how bad we start thinking about how bad this can be when we start having truck drivers who can't speak our language, that don't read our signs, and they don't understand when it says slow down, traffic stopped ahead. They just keep barreling in. How much damage they do. We all pay for that one way or another. Mm-hmm. I'm not talking about maybe not actually dollars, but we do pay for it. Because of the hurt and the loss of the people and what they feel and how that's going to affect their lives, it's horrible. And,
it is.
And we're seeing too much of it. Now, how can I change that? I don't know how I can change that. But, you had a chance to vote for some people who can change that.
That's right.
Up in the state legislature, and that one vote that you think may not count. One of our races here in Dent County, and I can't speak for Crawford County, I didn't look at those results, but in Dent County, we had a 30-vote difference between one of our commissioners. And if you flip that, if those 15 people vote the other way, you got a tie.
That's right. That's all it takes.
So 15 people that said, my vote counts.
That's right.
Went in there and they made it count.
That's why it is so important for everybody to vote, because it can come down to just a few votes. But like you're talking on the interstate, I live in Bourbon, so in the northeastern corner of the district, and we're right there on the interstate. The number of accidents that have resulted in fatalities over the past month on I-44 is extremely concerning for me. And so, of course, for me, I'm taking notes as potential legislation, right? Like if these truck drivers, and it's not just truck drivers. Trust me, I'm not attacking truck drivers at all. We need them for sure.
I'm only explaining that because this is this particular one accident.
But I mean, a lot of people not paying attention. But you do think about those truck drivers, and if they are not going to pay attention and they are going to be in accidents or getting citations, multiple citations, maybe we say with a piece of legislation, not anymore in Missouri. If you get X amount of citations or something that results in a fatality, you can't drive through the state of Missouri. Your CDL's pulled or whatever that looks like. Sure. But so exactly, it can be your legislator who works on those things. And here's the great part: as a citizen, as a constituent, you can reach out to your legislator and say, this is something that's personally affecting me or my life or my family or something like that. And you can say, what can we do to work on a piece of legislation to make this happen? And then they can kind of work with people and say, okay, what can we do? So just remember, you're a constituent and you have that ability to call on them.
And if you ask your legislator to help you, your representative to help you, a lot of times they can say, okay, we need to do this. You just don't ask the representative and walk away.
Yeah.
You need to do it as well.
Yeah.
Get a group together.
Absolutely.
MAD wasn't done in a day. It took a long time for Mothers Against Drunk Driving.
That's right.
And then look at the impact that it had on a number of highway laws for years. One of the neat things during your campaigning for your district seat that you have had, even though you're unopposed, that you have done is gone to a lot of commissioner meetings and things of that nature, alderman meetings, utility committee meetings, and well, you virtually been everywhere.
10 county health department meetings, you bet.
All of it. But you get exposed to some of the things that many representatives don't pay attention to what those local problems are. There are some county problems. There are some issues in Crawford County and Dent County. They're not the same. And you get a little feel for it. Now, I'm not going to say you got the whole basis for it, but then if somebody talks to you about it, you have knowledge of this
to pull from.
Exactly. And then you're sitting there, then you can talk intelligently about this to some people and say, yeah, I heard that. Tell me what your issue is.
Right. If you're not out there and talking to the people and understanding what's going on, because, right, like you can be kind of a generalist, basically. You listen to all these different things going on and all these different meetings, and you just kind of take that all in. But then, when a constituent or somebody comes up to you, you're like, oh, yes, I remember that piece. And you're right, because then you're facilitating things and you're trying to figure out how to tie things together. Talk about, you and I were kind of chatting about this prior, but one of the other things that I feel like we need to work on desperately is that in our district, I just made a post about this on Facebook. We had another one of our license office close. Cuba closed. They closed back on July 18th, and so now the district's almost 1,500 square miles. We have two. We have 2 license offices in the entire district. And so that is just yet another hurdle for residents who already face challenges with access to those essential services, especially those who struggle with transportation. I mean, think about the longer lines. If people are working, they can't get to the license office maybe on a Saturday. And some of these license offices are only open a half day on Saturday. Imagine what that line will be and the inconvenience for people, but how important this is, because this impacts voting too.
Exactly. And Jen, I don't understand it because it is most license offices are profitable operations. I mean, you have to go get license plates. You have to go there.
Right.
Yes, you can do some of that online.
Correct.
I'll say that. But a lot of times you can't. If you want to make some changes, you have to go to the license office, transfer on death and things of that nature. You've got to be there. They have to see you. You've got to have the proper documentation.
And you got to go back multiple times.
Well, yeah, and you may have to go back multiple times, but you can't if you don't have a license office to go to.
That's exactly right. And so if you're driving 45 minutes to head to a license office and they say, do you have your DNA sample? And you don't have, so then that's right. So then you're driving 45 minutes and back home or whatever. And that's a huge inconvenience for people. And I just think that these license offices are so vital when it comes to making sure that people have the ability to drive and vote and all of that.
And you can register to vote there as well.
That's right. Yeah. So I think that, maybe these, being privatized decades ago maybe was not like the best idea. The research that I did find that there are several very rural license offices that are not profitable because the fees are not there and bringing in that revenue whenever they need to actually pay their employees. I do know that there was a bill this last session that they were trying to increase those fees, but I still don't know that it's enough. I don't think fees had been increased in 2 decades or something like that. So for me, it just seems like it's a government duty. I think maybe the government should help out a little bit because they don't get any state funding.
Yeah, and they should get some state funding to make sure that they provide those services.
Because it's an essential service.
Yeah, well, I have to think so, yes. Yeah. Especially in Cuba. You would think that would not be one.
I know,
we
were shocked.
Have enough traffic to keep their license.
Yeah, well, Sullivan closed before that one, and it was in Crawford County.
I didn't understand that one either.
But we didn't either, and so we thought, oh my gosh, where are we going to have to go now to get our
and like I said,
license?
And I'm not saying that they're huge profit centers, but
right.
But it's a good business, and it can definitely make it. But again, it's privatized, and it all depends on how it's run.
That's right.
Yeah, and now all of a sudden you're down, like you said, you're down to two, and that's not many. And we have one in here in Salem, and they do a tremendous job. And
I've heard great things about them.
And I will be the first. I've had to go down there many times, and yes, I had to go home, like you said. I had to come back. Well, I mean, but there's things you don't know.
No.
And I'll give credit to those workers and everybody that works in a position like that. They're not going to give you the answer that you want to hear. They're going to give you the answer that's going to make it legal.
That's right.
That the state's going to accept this on your license.
This is what we need.
This is what we need.
Yep.
If you don't have it, or if you don't have this, we can't do it. For example, they wanted, in this case that I'm talking about, I bought a Blazer back in 2004. I paid that thing off. And I bought that through GMAC. GMAC no longer exists. It went to Ally. Ally no longer exists in the way it used to. There is no one I can contact to get a letter that says that's been paid off.
Lien release, yeah.
So the lien's on there. Now, years ago, and I explained this to them, GMAC, Ally, used to send a letter to the state to tell you that it was paid off. Not anymore. So she said, well, you got a letter. I got the actual note back from Ally. It said paid.
Paid, right.
That didn't work. I had to have a letter that said it was paid from that company. I said, fine. Leave it on there.
Right.
It don't bother me. It's 20-something years old. When it dies, it dies.
That's right. That's right. Anyway, no, I get it.
Well, about ready to wrap things up, Jen. I know you guys have been very, very busy. And any last-minute words? You're going to be doing anything locally here in the next little while?
Coffee with Jen. I'm going to hang out at the Main Street Cafe next Friday. So the 23rd, I'll be there at like 8 a.m. I'll hang out at the community table. Feel free to come chat with me, ask me any questions that you want. Drink some coffee. I'll be there eating, biscuits and gravy and probably some bacon and eggs. So
there you go. And if you have anything local that that you really want to get off your chest, and
call me.
This is what it's about, and if you want to sit down, a lot of people don't like to do it on the phone.
Yeah,
they want to do it in person.
You
and
bet.
That's fine.
I'm all about that.
You're going to be here next Friday, 8 o'clock, Main Street Cafe. Head on down there, have your discussion, and it'll be great.
Yep, you bet. And then the following week, I will be at the rodeo.
You'll be at the rodeo.
That's right. We'll have a booth
Cowboy hat and all.
That's right. We'll be set up at the rodeo with a booth.
Very good. Very good. Jen, thanks again for coming in. That's Jen Tracy. This is a paid political ad, by the way. And she'll be heading out to the state fair.
That's right.
Safe travels.
Thank you, sir.
That lady on that way out there. We always appreciate her coming in and spending some time with us. Again, good luck to you out there at the state fair. Don't get too hot.
Try not to.
All right, very good. Thank you very much for coming in. At KSMO Radio, your hometown radio station, it's 19 minutes after the hour 1 o'clock.